The glass doors opened, and every conversation in the summit lobby slowed for just a second. Not because anyone knew who she was, but because she didn't look like she belonged there. A black woman in her early 50s walked in wearing a clean but simple navy suit, carrying an old leather folder with worn edges. No diamonds, no designer handbag, no assistants walking behind her. Just quiet confidence. She checked the event board once, then started toward the executive hall. That's when a young event coordinator stepped in front of her. "Ma'am," he said with a polite smile that didn't feel polite at all, "staff entrance is around the back." A few people nearby laughed under their breath. She stopped, looked at him, then calmly replied, "I'm not staff." The smile on his face didn't move. "I'm sorry, ma'am, this summit is invitation only." A man standing nearby, wearing a luxury badge around his neck, looked her up and down. "Come on," he said with a smirk. "We all know why people show up at these events." A few executives chuckled. Someone whispered, "Probably another motivational speaker trying to network." Another laughed. Or maybe catering got lost. The woman stood completely still. No anger, no embarrassment, no explanation. Just silence. Because silence had been her language long before success ever found her. She slowly tightened her grip on the folder, and for 1 second, her mind traveled back to a one-room apartment with cracked walls and a leaking ceiling. Back to winter nights when her mother would boil water on the stove, just to make the children believe dinner was coming. Back to mornings when she walked to school wearing shoes with cardboard inside, because the soles had fallen apart. Back to teachers who couldn't pronounce her name, so they stopped trying. Back to classmates who laughed when she raised her hand. "Girls like you don't run companies," one teacher once said. "You should learn something practical." She remembered smiling. Even then, not because it didn't hurt, but because she had already made a promise to herself. One day, the same rooms that rejected her would wait for her to speak. Years passed. Her mother got sick. Medical bills piled up. The electricity went out more than once. Some nights she studied under streetlights outside convenience stores because there was no power at home. People walked past her like she was invisible. But invisible people learn something powerful. They learn how to build without applause. At 19, she worked mornings cleaning office floors, afternoons serving coffee, nights studying finance, economics, leadership, negotiation, anything she could find. She bought second-hand books with money she should have spent on food. She copied business lectures by hand because she couldn't afford internet at home. And still, people laughed. At 24, she pitched her first business idea. An older investor didn't even open her presentation. He looked at her, then pushed the folder back. "You're smart," he said, "but markets don't trust faces like yours." That sentence stayed with her. Not because it broke her, because it sharpened her. She walked out of that office with $11 in her account, and enough rejection to make most people quit forever. But pain can do one of two things. It can bury you or build you. She chose to build. She started small. A consulting service from a borrowed laptop, a folding chair, a rented room above an old grocery store. Her first client paid late. Her second disappeared. Her third told her, "You're too quiet to lead." She smiled and kept going. Years later, quiet became her advantage. Because while others chased attention, she chased understanding. She studied markets others ignored. She invested in businesses no one believed in. She listened when others talked. She watched when others showed off. And slowly, her numbers started growing. Thousands became millions. Millions became partnerships. Partnerships became influence. And influence became power. But even after success, she kept dressing simple. Kept carrying the same leather folder. Kept driving herself. Because she never wanted luxury to make her forget hunger. Back in the summit lobby, the young coordinator crossed his arms. "Ma'am, if you don't leave, I'll have to call security." Still, she didn't move. A woman wearing an executive badge leaned over and whispered loudly, "It's always the ones who can't read the room." More laughter. Then security arrived. A tall man stepped closer. "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you one last time." Before he could finish, the giant digital screen in the lobby changed. The summit logo disappeared. The room went quiet. Every eye turned upward. The new message appeared across the screen. "Welcome, Global Board Chair Miss Alina Carter." Silence. Real silence. Not laughter. Not whispers, silence so deep. People could hear their own breathing. The security guard slowly stepped back. The event coordinator looked at the screen, then at her, then back again. His face lost all color. A woman dropped her phone. Someone whispered, "No, that's impossible." But it wasn't. Because the woman standing in front of them, the woman they mistook for staff, wasn't just a guest. She was the investor who had acquired controlling interest in every major company represented at that summit. Net worth, $8.4 billion. The main ballroom doors opened, and one by one, CEOs began walking toward her, not with laughter, with respect. One of the same executives who had smirked earlier suddenly extended his hand. "Ms. Carter, I apologize, we didn't know." She looked at his hand, then looked into his eyes, and said quietly, "That's exactly the problem. No anger, no revenge, just truth." She walked past them, into the ballroom that once would have never let her inside. The crowd stood. Hundreds of executives, investors, board members, leaders, all rising to their feet, not because she demanded it, because she earned it. As she reached the stage, she placed that old leather folder on the podium. The same folder investors once ignored, the same folder people once laughed at. She opened it slowly, looked across the room, and smiled. Then she said, "When people cannot measure your worth, they often measure your clothes, your skin, your silence, your accent, your past." She paused. But time has a beautiful way of introducing people to the value they failed to recognize. No one moved. Some people looked down. Some wiped tears. Even the coordinator who tried to remove her stood frozen, because in one moment, every assumption in that building had collapsed. And before beginning her speech, she said one final sentence. Never ask someone to leave a room and when you have no idea who built the table. Because sometimes the person you overlook becomes the name on the door.